They built their future on my back, then handed the keys to a man who never fixed a leaking faucet in his life. My parents called it good planning, but we both know what it really was: a betrayal dressed as logic. The family plumbing shop I kept alive was suddenly my brother-in-law's. So I walked out, bought a rusted pipe bender, and built my own shop from nothing. And the moment their business flooded, literally, they came crawling. If you're interested in this topic, hit the like button, subscribe, and type interested in the comments, and I will give you a heart. I grew up believing loyalty was the glue that held families together. Turns out, in mine, loyalty was just a convenient word they used when they needed something from me. The plumbing shop wasn't a business to me. It was a childhood, a routine, a responsibility I didn't choose but carried anyway. While my friends spent weekends at malls or beaches, I spent mine crawling under sinks, calling copper pipes and memorizing the smell of PVC glue like it was perfume. Dad always said, "You're my right hand, kiddo." I believed him, because kids believe everything, especially when it comes wrapped in a little affection. But lately I'd noticed a shift. My sister's husband, Travis, hovered around the shop more than usual, pretending he knew things he absolutely didn't. He once held a wrench backward and said, "Tools aren't really my thing, but I'm willing to learn." I remember blinking at him because how could someone be that confident and clueless at the same time? My parents laughed. I didn't. Something in my gut twisted, a little warning whisper that felt too small to take seriously and too loud to ignore. Work was drowning me. I was doing estimates, installations, repairs, and even the books at night. Meanwhile, Travis supervised, which meant scrolling through real estate listings while sitting on Dad's old toolbox like it was a throne. My parents acted like he was the second coming of some plumbing messiah. "He has a good head for leadership," Mum said once. "He has a good head for naps," I muttered back. No one laughed. That was the thing. They stopped laughing at my jokes months ago. They stopped seeing the strain on my shoulders, the exhaustion in my face, the way my hands trembled after 12-hour days. But they somehow noticed everything Travis said, even if it was nonsense. One afternoon, I caught them in the office, whispering, Mum's voice calm but sharp. "It makes sense. He's married in. She'll understand." Dad's reply, "She's strong. She'll land on her feet." My stomach dropped so hard I physically grabbed the doorframe. The conversation ended when they heard me approach, masks snapping on like nothing had happened. That night, I couldn't sleep. My mind kept replaying their words, twisting them into possibilities I didn't want to consider. "She'll understand. She's strong." It felt like the beginning of a sentence they didn't want me to hear the end of. The next morning, everything unfolded like a badly scripted play they called a family meeting. I walked into the shop expecting maybe a discussion about expansion or equipment upgrades. Instead, I walked into Betrayal dressed in Sunday clothes. Dad stood tall, arms crossed. Mum wore that smile she used for pretending things were positive. Travis was leaning on the counter like he owned the place. Then Dad cleared his throat. "We've made a decision about the shop." My heart thudded once hard. "We're transferring ownership to Travis." My brain didn't process it at first. It was like hearing words underwater. Slow, warped, impossible. "To Travis?" I repeated, because sometimes your mind glitches when reality punches too fast. Mum jumped in. "Honey, he's better suited long term. You're strong, independent. You'll thrive anywhere. But Travis needs stability." I stared at them so long I forgot how to blink. "You're giving him the shop because he needs stability?" Travis chimed in with a smirk. "It's a leadership thing. I'm more of a business guy." My jaw clenched. "You can't even unclog a toilet without Googling it." He shrugged. That's what employees are for. Dad stepped between us. We're not asking. It's already signed. Signed. Past tense. Final. I felt something crack inside me. Not loudly, but in a quiet, devastating way, like snapping the last thread that held an entire tapestry together. They didn't apologize. They didn't explain further. They didn't even look guilty. They considered it logical, efficient, fair. That was the worst part. They genuinely believed I would swallow it. Mum reached for my hand. We know you'll support this. Family supports family. And that's when something inside me shifted. Slowly, coldly, painfully, I pulled my hand back. Family supports family, I repeated quietly, but only the family you choose to see. Their faces tightened. Confusion, annoyance, maybe even fear. I wasn't yelling, I wasn't crying, I wasn't begging, I was calm. Too calm. I looked around at the shop, the pipes, the tools, the shelves I'd organized 100 times, the workbench where I'd eaten lunches, the office where I learned invoices, the floor where I fell asleep during late shifts. It was mine in every way except on paper. And the paper was all they cared about. Dad gestured toward the door. We need time to transition. Maybe take a break for a few days. Translation, get out. Travis grinned. I'll start bringing in new systems. We're going to modernize. I walked out without a word, not because I accepted it, but because something in my spirit decided this wasn't the place I would break. This was the place I would rise. The sun burned my face as I stepped outside, but I barely felt it. I drove home on autopilot, hands trembling, chest tight. Betrayal tastes metallic, like pennies and heartache. But underneath the bitterness was something unexpected, clarity. They thought I would crumble. They thought I would stay small. They thought I would walk away empty. That was their mistake. Because sometimes being pushed out isn't the end. Sometimes it's the ignition. And if you were in my shoes, tell me, what would you have done? Burn it all down? Walk away quietly? Or build something they never saw coming? I didn't sleep that night. My mind wouldn't slow down long enough to let exhaustion win. Instead, it replayed every moment of that so-called family meeting like a movie I never agreed to star in. The signatures, the smugness, the calm way they dismantled my entire future while pretending it was some kind of blessing. By sunrise, I wasn't crying. I wasn't even angry. In the loud, storm-throwing way grief usually hits, I was hollow. Quiet, focused. Something inside me had snapped cleanly. No splinters, no frayed edges, just a single, precise break. And strangely, that clarity scared me more than the betrayal itself. I got in my car and drove back to the shop. One last time, I told myself. One last look at the place that raised me. When I pulled into the lot, Travis's car was already there. Too early for someone who claimed to be a natural leader. I walked in and found him behind the counter, feet up, eating a donut like he'd been doing it his whole life. He grinned at me with powdered sugar on his lip. Hey, champ, here to help me get started? Champ, a nickname Dad used to call me. Hearing it in Travis's mouth felt like an insult carved into bone. No, I said simply, I'm here for my things. He laughed, genuinely confused. Your things? What things? You don't own anything here now. He said it so casually, like telling someone the weather forecast. My jaw tightened. My tools. My uniforms. My books. My notes. Travis shrugged and waved a hand. It's all part of the shop now, you know. Assets. I stepped closer. Those are mine, paid for with my money. He kept chewing, unbothered. Well, your dad disagreed. He said everything here belonged to the successor, which is me. The word successor hung in the air like a bad smell. I stared at him, letting the silence stretch just long enough to unsettle him. I'll be taking my things, I repeated quietly, with or without your permission. For a moment, his confidence wavered. Then he straightened up, puffing out his chest. You're acting dramatic. Mum said you'd understand, said you'd support this because you're strong. I laughed, sharp, humorless. Funny how strength becomes the excuse people use right before they betray you. His face flushed, but not with guilt, with frustration. Look, you can take the shirts or whatever, but the equipment stays. Dad's orders. My equipment. The same tools I bought when the shop couldn't afford new ones. The same ones I used to fix jobs Travis couldn't even diagnose. That was when I realized something I should have known long ago. They weren't confused or mistaken or pressured. They made a choice, a deliberate one, and I was never part of the equation. I gathered what I legally owned, my notebooks, my tool belt, my measuring tapes, my personal protective gear, and a small box of things that actually had sentimental value, photos, trinkets, gifts from customers. Travis watched me the entire time, arms crossed, foot tapping like my presence delayed his coronation. When I walked out, he called after me. Don't forget, we're family. You'll always have a place here. I didn't turn around. No, I said. I won't. Outside, the sunlight hit differently. Not warm, not hopeful, more like someone had taken the world I knew, rearranged it, and handed me a new one I didn't ask for. As I loaded my car, my phone buzzed. Mom, we need to talk. I ignored it. Then Dad, you're being emotional. Ignored. Then my sister. Can you not make this harder? Travis is trying. That one made me stop. Harder? Trying? I had spent years holding that place together while the three of them acted like I was the background character in a story I wrote. And now they wanted me to be quiet to keep their conscience clean? I turned my phone off. I drove. Nowhere in particular, just forward, away from them, away from the shop, away from everything that used to tell me who I was. I ended up by the marina, a place I used to go as a kid when I needed to breathe. Boats rocked gently in the water like the world hadn't shifted under my feet. I sat there for a long time, watching the ripples, feeling the weight of the last 24 hours tighten around my ribs. And that's when the fear hit. Because beneath all the anger and betrayal was a truth I couldn't avoid. I had nothing. No shop. No backup plan, no savings large enough to carry me far, no safety net. My entire identity had been tied to that business. Who was I without it? The thought made my chest ache. Then another hit me like a punch. They expected me to come crawling back. They expected me to fold, to ask for help, to prove their decision right. That realization lit a spark. A small, stubborn ember. I wiped my face with the back of my hand and stood up. If they wanted to see me break, they were going to be disappointed. Because I wasn't broken. Not yet. I just needed direction, a path, a purpose. Something that wasn't tied to their names or their signatures. That was when my phone, forgotten in my pocket, buzzed again. This time with a voicemail notification. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. It wasn't my parents. It wasn't my sister. It was someone I didn't expect. A customer. An elderly man from a job I'd done months ago. He said, voice trembling with sincerity, "If you ever go independent, call me. I'll be your first client." I replayed it twice. Then a third time. That ember inside me grew. Maybe the path wasn't clear yet, but one thing was, I wasn't done. And if you were standing where I was, humiliated, betrayed, shoved out of the life you built, what would you do next? Burn the bridge? Build your own? Or turn around and show them who they underestimated? I didn't go home right away. Home didn't feel like home anymore, not when the people inside it had turned their backs on me so easily. Instead, I drove until the gaslight blinked, until my thoughts weren't so loud they drowned out the engine. I ended up in front of an old hardware store, one of those small town places with a hand-painted sign and potted plants nobody watered. I stepped inside, still unsure of what exactly I was looking for. The owner, a grey-bearded man with oil-stained hands, glanced up. "Rough day?" he asked. I blinked. Was I that obvious? "Rough year," I said quietly. He nodded like he'd heard that before, but there was something about his eyes, understanding maybe, that loosened something in my chest. "Tell me what you need," he said. What I needed. If he'd asked me yesterday, I would have said approval, validation, a sign my family actually saw me. But today, I needed something I never imagined wanting: freedom. So I walked through the aisles and gathered what I could afford: a basic welding mask, a used angle grinder, a small portable welder that had seen better days, gloves, wire brushes, clamps. Every item felt like a piece of myself I had forgotten I owned. By the time I reached the counter, the owner raised an eyebrow. "Starting something?" "Trying to," I replied. He studied me for a long moment. "You look like someone who's starting over." The words hit me right in the throat. I didn't cry, but my eyes burned so sharply I had to blink hard. "Yeah," I whispered. "I guess I am." He rang up the items slowly, thoughtfully. Then he added a brand new welding jacket to the pile. "Sturdy, clean, expensive. On the house," he said before I could protest. "Consider it an investment." I stared at him. Investment in what? "In whoever you're about to become." My voice lodged in my throat. People talk about angels. I've never believed in them until that moment. Because that man didn't just give me a jacket, he gave me dignity. When I stepped back outside, my phone buzzed again. My sister this time. A long text. "Mum said you stormed off. Can you just stop being dramatic? We did what's best for the family. Travis is reliable. He's a man. Customers will feel more comfortable. It's not personal. You're just sensitive." Sensitive, the word sliced through me like a razor. Sensitive for wanting fairness. Sensitive for working myself into exhaustion for a shop they refused to acknowledge I ran. I deleted the message without typing a single word back. I loaded everything into my trunk and drove to an abandoned workshop space I knew about, an old shed behind a friend's property. It was dusty, cramped, full of spiders and broken things. Perfect. Because I was broken too, and maybe the two of us could rebuild each other. I swept the floor until I could breathe without coughing. I set up the small welder, I plugged in the grinder and tightened its wheel. I arranged the clamps on a makeshift shelf. Then I stood in the middle of that tiny shop and exhaled. Really exhaled. For the first time since the betrayal. Quiet, stillness, purpose. That's when my phone buzzed again, but this time it wasn't family. It was a voicemail. The same elderly client I'd helped months ago. "I meant what I said," his voice repeated. "If you ever go independent, call me. I'll even bring the parts. People trusted you, not the shop. Remember that." I sat down on an overturned bucket and listened again, and again, and again. Until the truth finally settled into my bones. They took the shop. But they never took my reputation. That belonged to me. The next morning, the real trouble began. My parents showed up at my apartment unannounced, banging on the door, calling my name, shouting about responsibility and gratitude. When I didn't open, Dad texted, "You're embarrassing us." Mum followed with, "We gave Travis the shop because you don't have leadership qualities. But you can help him, support him. Why won't you accept your role?" My role? The one where I did the work while he took the credit? The one where I kept everything afloat while he got all the praise? I turned my phone off again. Later that day, a friend messaged me a photo from the shop. A picture of Travis standing proudly in front of the counter while my parents beamed beside him. Underneath was a caption, "Meet the new face of our family business." My stomach twisted. Customers commented, some congratulated him, some said they were happy to see fresh energy, but others asked the question that mattered, "Where's she?" Someone replied, "She's taking a break." Another, "She wasn't committed." And the worst one, "She caused problems." I felt those lies like punches. They were rewriting the story in real time, molding me into the villain so they could sleep at night. That was the moment something inside me hardened. If they wanted to paint me as the problem, I'd show them what a real problem looked like. I grabbed my notebook, the same one Travis tried to claim as assets, and flipped to a page filled with old client contact. I dialed the first number. "Hello?" "Hey, Mr. Lawson, it's me." "Well, I'll be damned," he said. "I heard rumors you left. Tell me it's true." "It's true," I said. "I am starting my own shop." "Good," he said immediately, "because your replacements don't know a ball valve from a cookie jar." I laughed, really laughed, for the first time in days, and it felt like oxygen rushing back into my lungs. I called the next client, then the next, then the next. Some didn't answer, some were shocked, but most said the same thing. "We'll hire you." I was shaking by the time I closed the notebook, not from fear, but from adrenaline. Momentum, purpose. My new shop wasn't polished, it wasn't fancy, it wasn't even fully equipped. But it was mine, and as the sun dipped behind the horizon, casting long shadows across the dusty floor, I realized the truth I'd been scared to admit. Losing the family shop wasn't the end, it was the beginning. And if you were standing where I stood, betrayed, underestimated, pushed out, what would you do next? Start small, start loud, start with vengeance, or start with a spark and let the whole world catch fire? Building my own plumbing shop wasn't glamorous, it wasn't romantic, it wasn't some triumphant montage where everything magically falls into place. It was work. Raw, ugly, lonely work. The kind that forces you to face who you really are without anyone else's expectations shaping the edges. But somehow, that tiny shed behind my friend's property became the birthplace of something bigger than I knew how to name. Word travelled faster than I expected. Clients who trusted me more than the family name started booking appointments in private. They'd pull up quietly, sometimes glancing over their shoulders like they were committing a crime. Some even whispered, "Your dad doesn't have to know I'm here." And each time I nodded, feeling something equal parts sad and satisfying twisting inside me. They weren't loyal to the shop, they were loyal to me. Meanwhile, my family was unraveling. And the universe made sure I knew it. The first sign came when a customer showed up ranting before I could even greet him. "Your replacement screwed up my kitchen pipes," he shouted. "Exploded under the sink, flooded the whole floor," I blinked. "Your replacement?" "That idiot son-in-law of yours," he snapped. "Said he was running the show now." Heat pricked my skin. Were my parents there? "Oh yeah," he said. "Your mother kept telling him, 'Just try again,' while your father stood there pretending he didn't see the mess." The man leaned closer. "You were the shop. We all knew it. They just refused to admit it. He paid me double to fix what Travis broke, triple, when I wouldn't accept a tip." After he left, I stood in the doorway for a long moment. breathing in the scent of soda and sawdust and something else. Freedom. Then came the second hit. The supplier who had always treated me like a niece showed up at the shed with a truckload of discounted materials. He didn't wait for me to ask. "Your family called me," he said. "Wanted a big shipment on credit. When I asked about you, they lied. Told me you abandoned them." My throat tightened. "They what?" "They're drowning," he said bluntly, "and instead of owning it, they're blaming you, acting like you're the traitor." For a moment, I couldn't speak. The betrayal was so sharp it almost felt physical, like a wrench to the ribs. "You think I don't know the truth?" he continued. "You held that shop together. You were the only one with skill." I wiped my face, pretending it was just sweat. He gently squeezed my shoulder. "Take what you need," he said. "Pay me later." I watched him drive away, feeling that same heavy mixture of grief and strength swirling inside me like a storm. But the storm wasn't over. Not even close. That evening, when I thought the day couldn't get heavier, my sister showed up. She didn't text first. She didn't knock. She barged right into my small workspace like she still had permission to step into my world without asking. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded. I didn't even look up from the pipe I was soldering. "Working and ruining our lives," she snapped. I set the torch down slowly and turned to face her. "Your lives are being ruined by your choices, not mine." Her nostrils flared. "Customers are leaving the shop. They're talking about you like you're some kind of hero. Meanwhile, Travis is stressed, Dad is furious, and Mum is crying every day." "Cry quieter," I said. "I'm busy." Her jaw dropped. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "I think it's predictable." She took a step closer. "Do you have any idea how this makes us look? Do you have any idea how you made me look when you took everything I built and handed it to a man who couldn't tighten a fitting?" Her silence was louder than any argument she could have made. Then she pointed at my setup. The shelves, the tools, the equipment I'd slowly gathered. "Mum said you'd stop eventually, that you're just throwing a tantrum. Dad says you'll crawl back when you realise you can't survive on your own." I smiled, not kindly. "Tell Dad he's wrong for the first time in years." She didn't like that. "You're supposed to support the family," she snapped, "not compete with us." "You didn't treat me like family," I said, "so don't expect me to treat you like competitors. You're not even competition." She flinched. "You think you're better than us?" "No," I said softly. "I know I am." Rage filled her eyes. "You're tearing us apart." "You tore me apart first," I said. "I'm simply choosing myself this time." For a moment she looked like she wanted to slap me. Instead she muttered, "When this fails, and it will, don't come crawling back." Then she stormed out of the shed, slamming the door so hard dust fell from the rafters. I stood there, breathing in the silence she left behind. And I didn't cry, not this time. Because somewhere beneath the fear and the hurt and the exhaustion was something deeper. Something I hadn't felt in weeks. Determination. If you've ever been pushed to the brink, if you've ever watched people you love weaponize your loyalty against you, then you know the exact moment when survival becomes ambition. That night, I made a decision. A bold one, a dangerous one, a necessary one. Lit the torch, pulled out a fresh sheet of copper and began welding a new sign by hand. Letters carved with precision, fire, and every ounce of defiance inside me. I worked until my arms ached and my eyes stung, and when I finally stepped back, sweat dripping, metal cooling, the sign gleamed under the single bulb overhead like it knew its purpose. Heartline Plumbing. A name they couldn't take, a name they couldn't claim, a name built from the one thing they underestimated. Me. And the storm I was about to unleash? They weren't ready. The truth about building something from nothing is that the world doesn't clap for you in the beginning. It stares, it doubts, it waits for you to crumble so it can sigh in relief. But there's a special kind of fire that comes from humiliation, the kind that turns fear into fuel. And that fire was roaring through me the next morning when I put on my welding jacket, stepped into my tiny shop, and saw the sunrise slicing across the dusty floor like a promise. I didn't know it yet, but that day would change everything. By noon, I already had a full schedule, 3 sink installations, a busted water heater, and a stubborn clog that another plumber refused to deal with. I was sweating, exhausted, and covered in grime, but every job I finished tightened the thread of purpose in my chest. People trusted me. People searched for me. People talked about me. And word spread fast. Too fast for my family to ignore. It started with a phone call from a long-time client. "Your father said you're not a plumber anymore." My jaw clenched. Did he now? He said you're unstable, going through something. There it was, the smear campaign. Small Town Strategy 101. When you lose control, rewrite the narrative. "Do I sound unstable to you?" I asked as I tightened a valve with one hand. "No," he laughed. "You sound like the only person who knows what she's doing." I hung up with a tight smile. But I shouldn't have been surprised, because an hour later I got another call, this time from a woman I'd helped years ago. "I tried going to your family shop," she said. "Travis messed up the water line. Claimed you were the one who taught him." I nearly dropped my wrench. "I did the opposite," I said. "I told him not to touch pipes without supervision." "Well," she muttered. "He clearly didn't listen." She paused. "Come fix it. And charge whatever you want." Then she whispered, "People are saying you're the real heart plumber." That sentence stuck to my ribs like armor. When I finished the job and stepped outside, I saw something that made my heart freeze. My sister, standing beside my truck with crossed arms and a glare sharp enough to carve bone. "We need to talk," she snapped. I brushed past her. "I'm busy." "Make time," she said, grabbing my arm. I stopped, slowly, deliberately. "Let go." She dropped her hand like she touched fire. "Mum and Dad are furious. You're taking clients. You're embarrassing us. You're making Travis look incompetent." "He is incompetent." She sucked in a breath like I slapped her. "You're trying to sabotage us." "I'm trying to survive." "Mum says you're out for revenge." I laughed. A sound that came from a place too deep, too wounded, too fed up. "Revenge? I'm working 12-hour days in a shed. If I wanted revenge, believe me, you'd feel it. You're destroying the family business." "No," I corrected. "I'm exposing what it really was without me." Her jaw clenched. "You think you're so much better than us." "No," I said evenly. "I think you all depended on me so much that you mistook my labor for your skill." She flinched again. "Travis is overwhelmed. He's saying he can't do this without you. He should have thought about that before accepting the shop." He blinked hard. "Dad is losing sleep. Mum is falling apart. They're scared." I tilted my head. "And when I was falling apart, where were they?" She said nothing, because she knew the answer. They were busy choosing him. They were busy pretending I was replaceable. They were busy expecting me to disappear quietly. I stepped closer. "Claire, listen to me carefully. Whatever happens next, your family created it." "Our family created it." "Our family," she whispered. "No," I said. "Yours." She looked like she wanted to argue, then closed her mouth, because the truth was too big to swallow. She turned to leave, then stopped. "You know we're going to lose everything if you keep doing this." I didn't blink. "Then maybe You were never meant to have it. She looked at me with something new. Fear. Real fear. Not of me, but of what I was becoming. Someone she no longer recognized. Someone she could no longer guilt or control. Someone who wasn't breaking. She walked away slowly, glancing back once as if hoping I'd call after her. I didn't. 2 hours later, the storm hit. Literally. A massive pipe burst at the family shop. Water flooded the floors. Inventory soaked. Tools ruined. Customers walked in and walked right back out. The town group chat blew up. Family shop flooded. Plumbing shop drowning in water. Ironic. Travis messed up a repair and hit the main line. Should have kept the daughter. That last one spread like wildfire. Screenshots flooded my phone. People tagging me, asking if I'd seen it, asking if I'd fix it, asking if I'd take over. I sat in my shed, small, dusty, imperfect, and watched the storm tear their world apart the way they tore mine. For a moment, guilt sparked. Brief, soft. But then I remembered Mum calling me overly emotional. Dad calling me dramatic. Claire asking why I couldn't just support the family. And Travis, lazy, arrogant, unskilled, smirking as he claimed the shop I bled for. The guilt evaporated, replaced by clarity. Because sometimes life isn't poetic. Sometimes justice doesn't arrive with gentle lessons. Sometimes the universe uses chaos when precision fails, and if you were in my position, holding your own wrench, building your own future, watching the empire that betrayed you crumble, what would you do? Rush to save them? Let them drown in the mess they caused? Or watch silently as they finally taste the truth they tried so hard to bury? When the family shop flooded, I thought that was the end of it. A fitting, poetic collapse, the universe delivering a verdict I never had the power to enforce. But life has a way of turning justice into something messier, deeper, sharper. The flood wasn't the finale. It was the opening act of a truth my family couldn't outrun any longer. I was finishing a water heater installation when the knock came, hard, desperate, familiar. I knew who it was before I even opened the door. My father stood there soaking wet, mud on his boots, water dripping from his cuffs, hair plastered to his forehead. He looked smaller, older, nothing like the man who once commanded a shop floor with nothing but a look. Behind him was my mother, mascara streaked down her cheeks, hands twisting a damp towel, and behind her, Claire, arms wrapped around herself, eyes swollen. For the first time in my life, they looked like a family seeking shelter. Not the family I came from, but a family hit by consequences they built with their own hands. My father spoke first. The shop? It's ruined. His voice cracked so quietly I almost missed it. We tried to fix the burst line. Travis said he knew what he was doing. He paused, shame thick in his throat. He didn't, Mum stepped forward. Water sprayed everywhere. Customers saw. Someone recorded it. She swallowed hard. It went viral in the town group, Claire added in a whisper. They're calling us the clueless plumbers. I didn't laugh, even when the urge stabbed at my chest. My father cleared his throat. The damages are bad. We don't have the money. Insurance won't cover. Negligence. He lifted his eyes to mine, eyes I had grown up seeking approval from. We need you. 3 words I spent my whole childhood wishing for. And now hearing them hurt more than all the insults combined. We need you to come back, he continued. Fix the shop, help us reopen. Customers trust you. Mum nodded rapidly. If you return, they'll forgive us, they'll come back, you're the face they remember. Claire's voice broke. Please, this is our business, our livelihood. I stared at them, my entire past standing in front of me in soaked clothes and desperation, and felt something unexpected. Nothing. Not coldness, not hatred, just nothing. Like the part of me that once cared had finally dissolved. "I'm sorry you're struggling," I said softly, "but I'm not coming back." My mother gasped. "You can't mean that." "I do." Dad stepped closer, voice tightening. "You'd let your family drown after everything we gave you?" I tilted my head slightly. "Everything you gave me?" "Dad, I gave you the shop, I gave you the clientele, I gave you my time, my health, my energy. You gave the shop to someone who couldn't install a faucet without supervision." His jaw clenched. "We made a mistake." "No," I said. "You made a choice." Silence thickened the air, heavy, unavoidable. Claire wiped her eyes. "What do you want from us? Do you want us to beg?" I held her gaze. "I want you to understand your actions have consequences. Not just for me, but for you." Mum grabbed my arm. "If you won't come back, at least help fix the flood damage." I gently pulled my arm away. "I'm booked for the entire week." "Booked?" she echoed, stunned. "With who?" "Your clients," I said simply. The words hit them like a pipe to the gut. Dad staggered slightly. Mum pressed a hand to her chest. Claire blinked in disbelief. "They're going to you." "They've been going to me," I replied, "because the shop they trusted is gone." Dad's voice rose, cracking with a mix of panic and anger. "We can't survive without you." "I didn't raise mine." "I didn't need to. You should have thought about that before you replaced me with someone who didn't know the difference between a shut-off valve and a pressure regulator." The silence afterward was suffocating, like the air itself was holding its breath. Dad finally said, "If you were in my shoes, what would you do?" And that was the moment everything clicked. They weren't asking for help, they were asking for rescue. They didn't want me back because they valued me, only because they needed the version of me that used to break my back for them. But that girl wasn't alive anymore. I stepped aside and opened the shed door wider so they could see the inside. My tools, my equipment, my organized shelves, the polished copper sign reading, "Heartline Plumbing." My father stared at it for a long time, a very long time. Then he whispered, voice barely audible, "You built this?" "Yes," I answered, "alone." My mother ran a hand over her mouth. "It's beautiful." Claire looked around, eyes filled with something painfully close to regret. "It's everything the shop used to be." "No," I corrected. "It's everything the shop should have become." Dad's shoulders slumped. "So, that's it? You're choosing this over us?" I breathed in slowly. "You chose him over me first." He opened his mouth, closed it again and looked away, defeated. Mum tried one last time. "Please, we're your family." My voice didn't shake when I answered. "Family protects you. Family supports you. Family doesn't hand your life's work to someone else and tell you to be grateful." Their eyes glossed with tears they earned, not me, not anymore. "I'm not abandoning you," I said gently. "I'm just refusing to sacrifice myself to save your mistakes." They didn't know how to respond, so they stood there, wet, broken, humbled, facing the truth they spent years trying to bury. And then my phone rang. Loud, purposeful, a new number, a new client, a new future. I answered it without looking away from them. "Heartline Plumbing, how can I help you?" Their faces fell. Because finally, They understood. I wasn't coming back. Not now. Not ever. And the shop they betrayed me for? It wasn't drowning because of me. It was drowning because without me, it never knew how to float.